Well, hello again. Seeing as I was here in Madrid, I thought I might as well start this dispatch from outside the Bernabeu. Now, to be honest with you, it looks more like the Bico building site in Dusseldorf, given all the construction work that is going on. But I thought I'd just say a quick hola and open this video before I take it on the road to the south of Spain. Now, when I do get there, down to Seville, I'll be bringing you news of who I believe to be Newcastle's player of the season so far, and answering the questions which you left me below the line in the community tab. So, okay guys, I'll see you soon. Have a little quick scan of this place, and who knows, we might be back here later on in the season for a Champions League knockout match. I'm not ruling it out. Actually, you know what? Let's go inside. So this is my first time. Let's see what it's got to offer. Here we go. Well guys, what do you think? A lush concrete mass. In some ways, to be honest with you, I'm almost glad. It leaves a little bit to the imagination, so at least when we do come back here in May for that semi-final, we'll see the green for the first time. That's one solution if your corners are struggling to make the penalty area. Bring the corner spot closer to the box. I like this a lot. Inside the outside. If ever Newcastle do get to Madrid, I couldn't recommend this place more. The Bodega de la Ardosa. It's Madrid's answer to the Crown Posada. Let's have a little look inside. Well, I just thought I'd give you a quick little glimpse of Estadio Cartuja here in Seville, and over my shoulder there, the Spanish national team are training, including a certain Joselu. Yet, remember him, 52 games for Newcastle, 7 goals. Never did we think we'd see the day when he was leading the line for Spain and, of course, Real Madrid. But fair play to him. On the train down this morning, I picked up a copy of Marca. In the cover story, the big interview was Joselu, and when you read his words inside, it's an inspirational story, really, one of a victory, really, for perseverance and self-belief. So good luck to him. I once sat down and interviewed him and always thought he'd come across as a thoroughly decent person, and there he is. There he is outside there now, and he'll be leading the line, like I say, for Spain, against Scotland tomorrow night. That would be a story if he was leading the line for Scotland. But no, also training is Miguel Mourinho, who, like I say, while we never thought we'd see Joselu, at 33 years old, getting these international honours, certainly Miguel Mourinho was someone in the one season, sadly only the 1 year he did spend on Tyneside, who had a great deal of potential and promised an obvious talent. So there you go. Now, why am I here outside the Estadio Ramon Sanchez in Seville, home of FC Sevilla, of course? Well, in large part, it's because this is why I thought Scotland were playing Spain this evening. Yeah, I got it wrong. They're actually playing at the stadium north of the city, and I booked a hotel right next door to here. Yeah, stick with me, guys. I'll keep you right. It does have its bonuses, though. Gives us a lovely chance to wander around somewhere new, and there's some guys on the corner back there selling football shirts, and I picked up 2 beauties for my boys, Barcelona jerseys, Gavi and Pedri on the back. So I hope you boys appreciate that when I get back. So no, I have to say I do wish that tonight's game was here at a stadium I've never been to. I've seen the pictures, seen the video, and it looks absolutely tremendous. And as I said at the very top, and earlier in the week I put in the community tab, asked for you guys to pose some questions of me, and I asked of you who we thought Newcastle's player of the season was to date. I give you 4 options and the choice of voting for someone else in the other category in the comments. And I have to say, guys, the response is absolutely brilliant. Nearly 2,000 votes there. I'll put that on screen now. You can see who the winner is, and I'll tell you now if I agree. Well, first of all, to talk about the 4 candidates, and this serves well as almost a little half-term report. What are we, a quarter, a fifth of the way through the season? Ultimately, it matters not. I don't think the players who don't win are going to be losing any sleep, but it gives us something to talk about. So yeah, let's go. And The guy who was at the top of the list, Kieran Trippier, well, why is he there? We've spoken about this so much this season. Arguably, I think he's playing better than he has ever done for Newcastle. And when it comes to the conversation of the most important, the key signings in the club's history, I mean, you know, who would be up there? Brian Kilcline would be part of the conversation. Peter Beardsley, Alan Shearer, there's plenty more names, but Kieran Trippier would definitely be part of that. And for what he has done, and this is of course bigger picture stuff, but for what he's done and what he's achieved since he came to the club, don't forget, from Madrid's Atletico Madrid La Liga winner to come into a team in the relegation zone, has anyone, his force of personality, his class, those two things coupled together, an elite level footballer coupled with an elite level mentality, has any player done more to take Newcastle from where they are to where they are now? I think not, in terms of the isolation of this season, which is what we're talking about. Again, he's been brilliant. Anthony Gordon. Now, Anthony Gordon was someone I spoke about a lot in the summer, and you know, I said on that rooftop bar in Orlando when we had a chat, by the way, I thought that was going to be the hottest I was all year. It's not. This place is. I was in a taxi last night. It's 37 degrees last night in October. The taxi driver said it's 10-15 degrees warmer than it ordinarily would be, so please do forgive the glisten on my forehead there. But yeah, Anthony Gordon, he has taken what I thought he would do into the season, and when he is in the team, you do see that difference in terms of energy. We saw it down at Sheffield United when he came on after 12 minutes, the difference he immediately made. And he now, a little like Trippier, is becoming something of a standard bearer. I thought they missed him down at West Ham on Sunday. On reflection, guys, the more I've had to think about that, I do think it was 2 points dropped, not just because of the nature of the last minute concession, but more so just analysing the game on the whole. I didn't think West Ham were very good. Newcastle was so far off it in the first half, and yet they weren't able to punish Newcastle. Newcastle came out, showed they're just a better team. I think they're a better team. I think they've got a better manager and better players than West Ham. And they should have won that game, which is why, as I told you, from the London Stadium, Eddie was a bit peed off, for want of a better phrase. Now, if Anthony Gordon plays that game, is it as simple to say Newcastle win? I certainly think they've got a better chance, and I think with him on the pitch, you perhaps wouldn't have seen the level of lethargy there was in the first half. So Gordon has been brilliant this season. Next candidate was Sean Longstaff, and while he's only, he's come in for the last 6 games, I think it is now. Well, those 6 games have, I was going to use the phrase save the season. They've revived the season. After on the back of 3 straight defeats, Sean comes back in. All of a sudden, Newcastle's midfield and by extension their team looks absolutely transformed. There's some questions about that from Neil Nicholas, which I'm going to come to when I finish this, and we'll get into more about Longstaff, Bruno, and Tonali, of course, as well. Sean has just shown his value to the team. I was joking when he was out the side he's becoming a better player week on week, and I said that tongue in cheek. Well, now he's actually back in the team. He's proven that as well. Brilliant contribution. The 4th man on the list, Alexander Isak. How can you not put him in for the goals he's scored? Now, I didn't get a little bit of stick, but one or two of you noticed when I asked a question of Eddie, 4 or 5 weeks ago in the press conference. I said, Eddie, I've stumbled upon a fascinating stat this week that Alexander Isak has only scored in one of his last 12 games for Newcastle. And it wasn't delivered, that wasn't me saying Alexander Isak is rubbish, as some people have picked up on. Not at all. It was the surprise in my voice and my delivery was because he was playing well, he was doing okay, and it was just a quirk of a stat. And a few of the guys in the room said, "Good stat, Craig." I said, "Cheers, guys." But yeah, it took us all in terms of a narrative and something to follow. A lot of other newspapers and websites picked up on it. Well, since then, he hasn't stopped scoring, so maybe the question needed to be asked. But yeah, Isak, you know what I think of him. I think he's top class. I think he's Champions League. Again, you guys have asked about his injury. I'll just answer that one quickly now. I've spoken to some colleagues over in Sweden. They say that it's a groin problem, but at the moment, it's not known as to the extent of it. But the fact he has pulled out of international duty, for me, will be a little bit of a worry. There were some more questions on which actually relate to Isak and Wilson. I'm going to come back to those. So those were the 4 candidates. The 5th, the other category, well, some of the names put forward, Miguel Almiron. Is Miguel Almiron overlooked? That is an accusation which has been put at me a couple of times when I've come to do my merit stars. I don't think I've put him in any of the top 3 for merit stars so far this season. Is that wrong? maybe I would turn around and say, well, those games when Almiron did play very well, there were three of the better performers, and that was my opinion, that was my take. I'm going to spin around here, guys, because I don't want to go in the sun, because like I say, it's absolutely scorching. So we'll have a walk back around this week and see the stadium from a different angle. Almiron, I get that. I think he's now running into the sort of vein of form he did exactly 12 months ago. And Newcastle will need that, because in the early weeks of the season, there was a little bit of dialogue online among supporters, and us guys were talking about it as journalists, that, you know, had Almiron's purple patch a year ago been very isolated, well, in the first couple of weeks of the season, you could make a case for that. I didn't think he was great. He has been of late. So Almiron, I get why you guys want him to be part of the conversation as well. But who's my pick? Well, I'll tell you what I wanted to be. I really wanted to be Anthony Gordon, because of where he came from. Now, again, I get comments saying, you wrote Gordon off last season. I didn't write Gordon off. Gordon was someone who quite clearly wasn't able to impact physically last year, because he wasn't up to speed with what you need to be in Newcastle, or more likely an Eddie Howe player. Now, it wasn't writing him off, it was just giving an opinion that he had to do more over the summer to get himself at that level. And when I saw him in America, when I spoke to him, when I watched him play in matches and in training, I looked at him and just thought, wow, he's going to hit the ground running, and he has. I would love him to be my pick as player of the season, but I'm going to, in my mind, it's a complete split between Gordon and the guy I'm going to give it to. And the viewers have swayed me, really. If you look at your winner, your pick, he gets 51%. And because of that, Kieran Trippier, it just tilts it in my thinking. I just think with Trippier in the team, there is a level of confidence. It's like having your parents there, you know? When you're little, and you feel that level of sort of comfort or surety by having a grown up there. Kieran Trippier is Newcastle United's grown up, and when he's in the team, yes, the youthful exuberance of Gordon is fantastic, but Trippier for me is the one who pins it all together. He hasn't got legs, he hasn't got tremendous recovery speed. How often do you see him ever actually needing it? You know, that's how clever he is. And I just saw that game at Milan, and we had a beer afterwards. This is the conversation we had. We said Kieran Trippier is Newcastle's only real Champions League, you know, I call Alexander Isak a Champions League level footballer. A lot of them are Champions League footballers. They showed that against Paris Saint-Germain. But what we thought in Milan was the Trippier was the one who showed himself to have that pedigree, that experience, that class, and that know-how, just to see home that draw for Newcastle. He's taken that into the league as well. The run of clean sheets on the back of what was a bit of a sticky spell for the defence. I know the NFL was in London at the weekend, same time as the West Ham game, but yeah, for the defence. And you can see how hot it is, guys. The flies are. So for me, it goes to Kieran Trippier. Now, if you look through the glass there, guys, you can actually see the pitch of the stadium here. I do love foreign football grounds. They are just absolutely magic, and like a moth to a flame. No matter where I am in the world, I'll always head for them. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of a wider angle of the stadium here as I answer some of your questions that were put to me. Again, thank you so much for that interaction. We'll just have a little wander out here. And yeah, like I said, Neil Nicholas posed quite a few good questions, and two of them centred on the same thing. One, can Bruno and Tonali play together, and do Newcastle United ultimately need a specialised number 6? Now, a quick disclaimer here, guys. I recorded this just hours before news broke of the illegal betting allegations against Sandro Tonali. The latest I have is that Newcastle will wait for him to return to Tyneside before speaking to their player about it. But of course, this could have very serious implications for both Tonali and Newcastle United. Now, can Bruno and Bruni, no, that sounds like McFred. Brunali. Can Brunali work? There you go, we've hit upon something. Can Brunali work? Now, in America, I finished with a video wandering around Times Square, didn't I? Where I questioned whether it could, and that was based on what I'd seen during the game against Aston Villa when Eddie went with 2 in midfield, and when McGinn, who I spoke to last night, by the way, John McGinn, good guy, good player as well, John McGinn and Douglas Luiz ran all over them. And from that point, I looked at that, and that formed the basis of me saying in America that I didn't think they could play together as a 2. Now they went into the season as part of a 3, and again it didn't really work, as we saw down at Brighton when both Tonali and Bruno had off days, and had a half-fit Joe Linton in there alongside them. Again, that was the low point of the season so far. But then Joe Linton is injured, and Sean Longstaff comes back into the side, and everything changes. Now that's on a team level, but what Longstaff has done for Bruno, we've seen Bruno hit his previous levels and totally justify the bumper new deal he's got in recent weeks. He's been tremendous. Tonali, now we're going to come on to Tonali, and after the game on Sunday, I got a little bit of stick, more so on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it these. I'll have to say there's a massive difference, guys. You can make a comment on here and you'll come back below the line and it'll be okay, I agree with you, good point, or I disagree with you and these are the reasons why. On Twitter, it's just a stream of absolute vile abuse, really. It borders on. It's quite bizarre that you can't really on that platform tell people something that they might not want to hear. I even had it during Steve Bruce, would you believe it or not? You know, a lot of times I would write stories exposing things that were happening on the inside that shouldn't have been under the former manager, and all of the comments would be quite negative and quite aggressive towards myself. You do realise it is a real minority, an absolute minority, but it's the same voices over and over. Anyway, that's a tangent, but it comes back to Tonali, and the wider point is I do get why there is amongst some a need to protect him and want to protect him, and I'm not writing him off, I'm not judging him, I'm not saying he's not a good player. Incredibly, one user replied and said, notice he didn't do any videos after Sheffield 8-0 and Paris Saint-Germain. Well, I did. They're there. That's what you're working with sometimes. Anyway, Tonali, the point I make is I'm not judging him. I think he's a lovely footballer. I was out in Milan at the semi-final, and I told you after that, I wrote it, I put it on these videos, I thought he was the best player on the pitch. I told certain people at Newcastle that when I bumped into them. I thought he was a lovely footballer. We then saw at Rangers in the pre-season friendly what he can bring. We then saw against Aston Villa. Wow, he is a beautiful, brilliant footballer, and you can see why Eddie Howe used the phrase, he fell in love watching him play. Does that mean I can't have, or you guys or anyone else can't have an opinion on what he's done and look at him in terms of how he's performed recently? And I think he is for a £52 million signing, Italy international, 23-year-old. I think he was brought in to impact now more than he perhaps has done. Yes, you give him time. Anthony Gordon, Alexander Isak, they've all needed time to get up to speed with Eddie's playbook, with a new league in the case of Isak, a new league in the case of Tonali, and Gordon and Isak look tremendous now. Botman and Bruno are different. They hit the ground running. Tonali looks like he's someone who might need time, but it doesn't mean we can't talk about his performances or question could he have done better with the leg down at West Ham. Likewise, the similar incident at Brighton when he didn't block the shot. But do I think he's a good player? Yes. Do I trust Eddie to get the very best out of him, for him to go on to be a fantastic footballer for Newcastle? Yes. Do I think he's hit the ground running and is playing particularly well? Well, no, not really, and I'm allowed to say that. You may disagree, but there's a little bit of context there. It's not extreme one way or the other. It's a halfway house, and it's talking about a player who, as a journalist covering the club, he's an interesting topic because he was the big marquee signing. I've gone around the houses here and halfway around the stadium trying to answer Neil's question. Can Bruno and Tonali play together? Of course they can. They're two wonderful footballers, but I do think they need a third player in there alongside them, be that Sean Longstaff, a fully fit Joe Linton, or perhaps a hard runner like Joe Willock. I don't think they can play together as a two. I just think the Premier League is a league where you need more legs and more physicality. So yeah, over time, I think Eddie would love to see Bruno and Tonali play in a fluid three together. And like I said just before there, you know, he is the manager and the man to make that happen. Now, the next question, which was, what areas do you think Newcastle should prioritise in January? It's a good question, this, because I think at the start of the season, I was shouting about a number 6. I think since Sean Longstaff has come back in, you've perhaps shown that you might not need that, even though I still do think it's an area they should have looked at in the summer. But anyway, what I'm going to go on to say is now, I think striker is becoming, the more we get into the season, and I think Wilson and Isak are absolutely top and a wonderful pair to rotate, and Eddie has done that brilliantly since the Carabao Cup final. They've both been hungry, they've both been fit, they've both been scoring. What we're seeing now is Isak's got the groin problem, Wilson's missed a couple of the hamstring, could only come on for the final 10 minutes, whatever it was, down at West Ham at the weekend. Do they need a younger body in there. Now, I wouldn't really advocate, I don't think it probably can because of FFP, go out and spend 70 million pounds on a real number one striker. I don't think they would need that either. I think that would upset the balance if Isak and Wilson are still fit. But I do just think they need a third option in there now. Someone younger, someone who can perhaps play out to the left or out to the right as well, but is primarily a central striker, because at the moment, and I asked this question very recently, if Wilson and Isak are out, who goes in there? Well, it's Anthony Gordon, and that's probably not ideal as much as I think you would do a job in there. So to answer the question, for me, in January, if I was them, I'd be looking at a third striker. A lot of talk as well about another centre-half, but Jamal Lascelles has come in and proven himself more, this sounds a little bit disrespectful, but a more than capable deputy, more than that, you know. He's come in, he's captained the team during another unbeaten run. So yeah, that's my answer to that one. And the last question was, can Newcastle win the Champions League this season? Well, what a place to address it outside one of Europe's most wonderful stadiums. Can they win it? Yes, they can. Do I think they will? I don't know, really. I think they'll go far. As I said, after PSG, they've beaten one of the top teams. A team who is routinely one of the first 3 or 4 in the betting every year. They've dismantled them. Newcastle are getting better week on week. They're starting to click now. The first half down at West Ham you can forgive. I think they'll get to. I'll make a prediction here, and this will change as the season goes on because everything changes. But if you put me on the spot now, middle of October, I think they'll get to the semi-final. I do, and I think we've got lots more wonderful nights in Europe to come. And as I said, up in Madrid, that could be there, or it could be anywhere. Isn't that the beauty of it? The draw stretches out in front of us. I think they will emerge from the group, and I just think they're in a good place now. So, by extension of my half-term report of the player of the season, what mark would I give Newcastle for the opening so far? I'll go somewhere between a B+ and an A-. You've got to factor in the 3 defeats and the failure to get what I thought they should have got those 3 points down at West Ham. So yeah, I'll go. But then you've got the difficulty of the fixtures. You've got the wonderful night against PSG. I'm going to bump it up, guys. It's an A- from me, with some scope for improvement. Keep on watching, guys. Keep on listening. This has been great fun. Have one last little scan of this place. Honestly, if you ever get the chance, come here. Great city, great stadium, and yeah, I've enjoyed this, and I hope you have too. Okay, guys, take care. See you soon. Bye bye.